north-central Italy. His father was a blacksmith. There were very few job opportunities in his area. And so in 1902, Mussolini moved to Switzerland, where he became involved there in socialist politics. He returned to Italy in 1904. He worked as a journalist in the socialist press. But his support for entering Italy in the First World War, it caused him to abandon socialism. He was conscripted into the Italian army in September 1915. And in March 1919, Mussolini founded the Fascist Party. And he got the support of many unemployed veterans. And he organized them into armed groups. They are called Black Shirts. And these teams were terrified and frightened their political opponents. In 1921, the Fascist Party was invited to join to a coalition government. And by October 1922, it was clear that Italy was in a state of political chaos. The Black Shirts marched to Rome, and Mussolini introduced himself as the only man who can restoration of public order and stability. And then King Victor Emmanuel. Mussolini's call to form a government. Mussolini dismantled institutions. Gradually democratic rule. And in 1925, he made himself a dictator. He took the title Duce. He resolved to try to re-establish Italy as a great European power. And the system was coherent through strong control of the state and personal reverence for Mussolini. In 1935, Mussolini invaded Abyssinia, present-day Ethiopia, and incorporated it into his new Italian empire, and provided military support of Franco in the Spanish Civil War. He increased cooperation with Nazi Germany, and this cooperation reached its peak in 1939. Upon signing an alliance with Nazi Germany. It's called the Pact of Steel. And because of Mussolini's influence on Hitler, Mussolini legislated anti-Jewish in Italy. And because of his declaration of war on Britain and France in June 1940, it showed how weak the Italian army was. And then there was a series of defeats in North and East Africa and the Balkans. In July 1943, Allied forces landed in Sicily. Mussolini was overthrown, and he was imprisoned with his former colleagues in the fascist government. In 1943, Mussolini was dismissed by the Council of Ministers. He was arrested by King Victor Emmanuel III. After successive military defeats and popular protests, he was transferred to Ponza Island, then to La Maddalena Island, then to Campo Imperatore Hotel in the mountains of Abruzzo. And on September 12, 1943, he was liberated by a German special force led by Otto Skorzeny, and he was transferred to Germany. And in October 1943, Mussolini created a puppet government in northern Italy under the protection of the Germans. It is called the Italian Social Republic. But this government, she had no real power. They were facing fierce resistance before the National Liberation Council, CNL. It is a coalition of anti-fascist groups. In April 1945, the German defenses in northern Italy collapsed and launched the National Liberation Council. General uprising in the cities. Mussolini fled Milan, where he was staying, and tried to escape to Switzerland with his mistress, Clara Petacci. But on April 27, 1945, his column is intercepted by resistance fighters. near the village of Dongo on Lake Como. The fighters checked the identities of the occupants of the cars. And they found Mussolini hiding under a German leather jacket. And they took him and Pedici to a farm near the village of Gull. The next day the orders came from the Council of the People's Liberation Front. Mussolini's execution. Then came Colonel Valerio, who secretly joined the front to the place of Mussolini's arrest. He told him that he had come to save him and asked him to accompany him to the chariot that were waiting. He took him to Villa Belmont next door, where a squad of soldiers was waiting for them. The Liberation Front had arrested most of his aides. It identified 15 of them for execution. On the 29th of April they were assembled, including Mussolini and his mistress Clara. And they were placed upside down by their legs at a petrol station in Milan. This method is considered execution, dedicated to traitors in ancient Rome, which Mussolini tried to restore his glories. Their bodies were displayed with the bodies of 5 other fascist leaders in a public square in Milan, hanging by the legs in front of a station. To fuel the masses came. She insults them, and spits on them, and throw them with what's in their hands. The masses lost control of themselves, so they started shooting over corpses and kicked them with their feet. Their corpses were put in furniture-moving cars, and I wandered with them in the streets of Milan. After everything was over, the bodies were taken. She was secretly buried in Milan in 1957. Mussolini's body was handed over to his family to be buried near the city in which he was born. If you like our story for today, we hope you will like us and subscribe, and activate the bell to receive our next story. And thanks for watching.